Hey guys, so I wanted to talk a little bit about carbs, and carbs are misunderstood, and I'm just going to give you an overview based off of my own experience with them. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a chemist, I'm not an endocrinologist, I don't, biologist, I'm not any of those things. All I am is a guy who has lost 120 pounds, and carbohydrates were at the center of that. And so my understanding of carbs is that it's a molecule that when you ingest it, it gets broken down into glucose and other things. And the relevant piece is glucose, because when it gets broken down into glucose, that goes into your blood sugar or bloodstream, and it is what is called blood sugar. So that elevated glucose motivates a cascade of other things that happen, one of which is your pancreas starts to dump insulin, because your body is really smart and it can regulate a very tight window of it has to regulate a very tight window of blood sugar. If you go too high, you become hyperglycemic. If it goes too low, you become hypoglycemic. And so that regulatory system is very tightly controlled. So once you get a bunch of insulin dumped in, its function is to store that sugar somewhere. It will store it in the liver, and it will also store it in your fat cells. And so that's where body fat and carbohydrates link together, is through that whole mechanism. And so in order to get that glucose out of the bloodstream, because your body has to keep it within that very tight window, it'll do what it can, and if it's put everything it can in the liver, it's going to start dumping into fat cells. And so if you change the carbohydrate content that you eat, it's going to change everything downstream in that cascade, ultimately meaning that less fat is going to be stored. So carbohydrate is the primary mechanism or the primary driver of glucose making it into the bloodstream. So when I'm talking about carbohydrate, I'm not talking about vegetables. Vegetables do have lots of carbohydrate. However, they also have fiber and all kinds of vitamins and other things that blunt the spike of glucose. So the rate of absorption is much slower in a vegetable than it is a Twinkie. So when you eat, or you take a tablespoon of sugar, which is table sugar, which is, I believe, sucrose and glucose, it goes directly into your bloodstream, or not directly, but it very quickly makes it to your bloodstream. So that would be the extreme example of a carbohydrate really causing an insulin spike. And also, everyone is different. Every individual responds to that glucose differently, and everyone's gut microbiome is different in the way that it processes the sugars. So I hope this was helpful. I just want to encourage you to reduce the amount of processed carbs that you're eating, and things that are ultimately going to motivate that storage of fat that none of us want. All right, I hope this was helpful. Have a good one.